The perfect.
Shanghai soup dumplings are a really nifty little trick that the Chinese came up with around the 1880s in the area around Shanghai. The Chinese name is xiao long bao, meaning small steamer baskets of bao. And they're filled with, most of the time, pork and a little soup. Now, a lot of times they're translated as soup dumplings, but the soup is actually inside of the skin, so it's kind of like wonton soup in reverse. I've been around the world doing goofy things like observing dumpling masters making dumplings at street side stalls and in restaurants. And what Chef Lu Kuang does here at Shanghai Dumpling King, who's had 25 years of experience making dumplings, go at it with his skinny little rolling pin, and he's just like barely looking at what he's doing. It's just such a joy to watch. He has his dough, and it's made out of wheat flour, and then he rolls it into a very long, thin log. He just pinches off these little nuggets, then presses them down to flatten into discs. He'll roll each one of them into a wrapper using a very long, thin little rolling pin. 多少年他用那个20 So he's been using that for about 20 years, that rolling pin. And then he spreads his filling kind of flat on each one of the wrapper and then pleats it very, very quickly while stretching the dough actually, so that he gets those beautiful, beautiful marks, sort of like in an accordion fashion. And so he'll just close it up all the way around and then it's done. People oftentimes ask me, well, how do they get the soup inside the wrapper, you know? And what happens is they gelled a very intensely flavored stock using some pork skin in it, and they put it in with the meat filling. Oftentimes it's a very fatty pork filling. The gelled stock makes it possible for you to then fill it into this tiny little wrapper and then steam it off, and then it melts and becomes soup into the wrapper. It's kind of like molecular gastronomy before there was ever molecular gastronomy. 你想为什么你们的小笼包是最好的，比姐的？
因为我们都是自己做嘛，用心去做，我们并没有说，我们要求就是说自己把它一定要，一个是经验的，做了这么多年嘛。
So they make about 1,500 of these a day, and this is just one kind of dumpling that Shanghai Dumpling King makes. As soon as you get them on your table, eat them, stop conversation, and just dive in because they're really hot and they're at their peak right now. Use both chopsticks and spoon. Pick up one. It's kind of sagging a little bit from the soup. Poke a hole in there and then pour whatever liquid that you can get out of the soup dumpling and then sip on the soup. That's great. Now give it a little dunk. And that's it. The skin is very nice and translucent, but it's got some flavor to it. The filling is really flavorful and it's got some richness and some sweetness without being overly so. And then they use the right vinegar. Qinqiang vinegar, which is a very dark vinegar that's similar to balsamic vinegar, but it has a little bit more of a smoky, slightly tart quality. And that gives just the right amount of contrast to the sweetness and the richness of the pork filling, so that when you dip that soup dumpling into the vinegar and you put it in your mouth, there's a fabulous flavor explosion, and Shanghai Dumpling King achieves that every single time.